Live from the 607, it's the Ocho Duro Parlay Hour, where we're talking everything movies, TV, comics, and entertainment. Join in the conversation on social media with the hashtag ODPH, because here we go. Welcome to an all-new edition of the ODPH podcast. What is happening, everybody? Thank you so much for joining us this week. My name is Ken M. Joining me in studio, as always, you know him. He's the co-host. He's a statistician to the stars. His name is Padawan J.
Let me talk to you.
And boy, we have a lot to talk about in the land of movies, TV, comics, and more. You are tuned in to the entertainment edition of the ODPH, and we definitely want to keep those conversations rolling after the show. So, Pad, where does everybody go?
ODPHpodcast.com.
From social media links to the T Public store, to the blogs, to the classified section, which has friends of the show, such as Nerd Initiative, Dragon Master Games, 3FN Podcast, and many more. A directory which has us on how many providers, Pat?
We are on 209,154.
And your source?
Trust me, bro.
So wherever you're listening to ODPH on, we do appreciate it. So leave us a review on your favorite podcatcher. It helps the algorithm of the show. Last but certainly not least, check out the music section going on, because you can hear such great musicians as Brian Wolf and the Howlers, Second Suitor. We got to pause for a second. Tom Jolu is going out and playing, I believe, his first show at 2025.
Hey.
And he has got a lot going on. So if you're not signed up for his newsletter, you need to go make sure you do that. Also, Floodland, shout out to Robots. Basically, if it's anything that we do here at the ODPH, you can find it at odphpodcast.com, and you'll find even more there. And go check it out. And if you're using hashtags on social media, why not use the hashtags ODPHpod? As we are recording, it has been a busy Marvel day.
Holy Christ, yeah, it has.
So we're going to get to the big news of the day, if you will, at the end of the show. Because, well, I mean, by this rate, I think everybody's still going to be adding names to the cast list for a certain movie that's coming out. But there's a certain show on Disney Plus right now that hits with back-to-back episodes and had the pop culture world talking for the past 24 hours. Pat, what are we talking about?
Season 1, episodes 5 and 6 of Daredevil, Born Again.
Yes, the return of Matt Murdock, played by Charlie Cox, against Vincent D'Onofrio's Kingpin has really captivated the pop culture audience. You're seeing more and more viewers tune in, and which is great, because now we're seeing a lot of comic questions getting asked, which I love seeing on social media. So there's a lot of moving parts going on, because obviously where we've been for the return to Hell's Kitchen has been a bumpy one for Matt Murdock,
to say the least.
A lot of moving parts have been going on, and these two episodes, because they decided to drop back-to-back ones for reasons, has got us talking a little bit about his new look on life, per se, as he's going to be trying to pull off the impossible, and that is deal with the mayor of New York City's reign of terror that is impending on him. So that being said, we are going to give you our spoiler-free statements on episodes 5 and 6 of Daredevil Born Again. Now, what that means is we're not going to ruin anything for you. We're going to give you just kind of our overall consensus of what we thought of the shows. But we do give you a countdown. After said countdown, you have to make a choice. Like The Clash, do you stay or do you go? If you stay, you're going to hear spoilers. You're going to hear deep dives. You're going to hear theories. You're going to hear stuff that might give plot away down the road, because we're guessing and, being fans about it. Or you can pause the episode, go watch it, and then come back, and then you jump right in the conversation, and you're all caught up and nothing's ruined for you. So you have to make that choice when we get to that point. But in the meantime, Pad, give me your spoiler-free statements on Daredevil Born Again, episodes 5 and 6, entitled With Interest and Excessive Force.
Thought they were good episodes. I thought 5 was action-packed and exciting. Was it the best episode ever? No, but I sure as shit enjoyed the hell out of the tension. Holy cow. And then 6, absolutely phenomenal, especially that ending where, oh boy, we're going to be going some places, and I am excited to go there.
I thought 5, I don't want to use the word filler, but I think 5 was a bridge to get where we needed to go with the character.
Sure.
So I did enjoy it, though. I'm not taking anything away from it. However, 6 is a much stronger episode.
Sure.
Because they dive into something in the comics. They really took some changes, and I think they worked for where the story is based off of. But with 3 episodes left in the season, as crazy as that sounds, there's a lot of question marks to be had.
Right.
And I am really intrigued if this is where we end one part and we're now building towards that finale.
Okay.
So they're both great episodes to watch. However, one is stronger than the other. But if you want to find out why, you got to stay through that countdown because we're going to go into spoiler talk. In 3, 2, 1. Pad, let's really talk about it.
Like I said, I thought the first 2 episodes, the most recent 2 episodes were good. With interest. I like the tension. I like the, you weren't quite sure what was going to happen. Obviously, it's episode 5 and 6. If they weren't going to kill the main character off yet, or at this point, there's still however many episodes left to go before the end of the season. But I did enjoy the what the heck is going to happen? How the heck are they going to get out of this, aspect of things. Episode 6, Excessive Force, better than 5, but I still enjoyed 5 and thought it was exciting. But 6 was just really one of those ones that, we've kind of introduced the villain. We haven't necessarily dug that deep into what's been going on. It's been kind of a blink and you miss it. Here today, gone before tomorrow kind of appearance for him. And it's time, we got to start accelerating the car a little bit and get the story going a little bit. And now we're really digging into, I guess you could say the main course of the dinner and getting to what happens with that villain.
I think for where we go with interest, as weird as this is going to sound, this is an origin story.
Sure.
Because where we've dipped into Matt Murdock's persona at this point, he retired from being Daredevil because of his actions in response to the quote-unquote death of Foggy Nelson.
Crossed the line in his eyes.
Yes, because he threw Bullseye off a building.
Yep.
Which, ironically, has not been talked about.
Yeah.
For being thrown off a building.
Well, he got imprisoned.
He got imprisoned, but he is walking around just fine.
Yeah.
He is not exactly crippled.
I thought he was dead in that scene. I'm like, holy shit, he killed a man.
Right.
And then he got up and walked, and I'm like, oh, I guess not.
But knowing what might be saving him, and they have not revealed that.
True. I know where you're going, and yeah.
Yeah.
Somebody in our Nerd Initiative chat brought this up a little bit ago.
About his skeleton.
Well, something to do with that.
Yeah, and a certain metal?
No, they brought up a certain I word.
Oh, I don't think it's Inhuman.
Oh, okay.
No, not for Bullseye.
Oh,
for
okay.
Muse.
You know what?
Muse,
they were talking about Muse. That's right.
Yeah, but Bullseye has a very unique way he survived because nobody's talking about it.
Well, the thing of it is, though, okay, if it is adamantium, let's just go off of that theory.
Mm-hmm.
They've just barely begun to scratch the surface with it in terms of where they're at in this universe. I mean, Christ, we almost had World War III and Captain America Brave New World over the damn thing. So I don't think they're necessarily at the point. I realize science, when applied, with pressure, moves at rapid speed. Hello, case in point, real life. But I don't think they're necessarily at the point where they're ready to start applying it to your skeleton.
Right. But this is where I know we haven't talked about it, but this is part in the comics that he has this. So, but granted, it's not like Wolverine. He's not popping claws or anything like this. But how it goes about to restore him and heal him is kind of a weird thing. Right. Because the only thing I was thinking is when he was thrown off, how did he survive, so to speak? Yeah. So we have to kind of keep that in mind.
It could be something they write in later.
Yeah, which I think, you can go backtrack a bit.
Sure. Because you could explain it in a sentence later.
Yeah, because if they really want to dip into it and make some sense of it, they have ways to move around it.
Sure.
But that's the easiest way to describe it. But regardless, this is the whole point that Matt Murdock has hung up the cape, so to speak, if you will.
Right.
Or hung up the billy club.
Yes.
Because now he's been back to being a lawyer. He's trying to trust the system. The system is not exactly working in his favor.
Right.
Wilson Fisk is now the mayor because the Kingpin has now won over New York City. By hook or by crook.
Yeah.
And he's still doing dirty deeds done dirt cheap behind closed doors. His wife, Vanessa, has now become a possible antagonist on him. Which,
not going down for Wife of the Year so to speak.
No, they have a very complicated relationship, if you want to put it mildly.
Yeah, that's putting it real mildly.
Yeah, I mean, that's just something you have to realize. And I let Zuriel, who's playing Vanessa, is doing a great job because now they're having a tug of war in their relationship.
Yep.
She had an affair. That gentleman, unfortunately, came on the wrong side of Wilson Fisk for this.
Hey, is there a good side of Wilson Fisk?
If you're making him money, yeah.
Yeah, true.
I mean, there's a reason he has some loyalty amongst his crew.
Yeah.
And maybe it's power, maybe it's fear, maybe it's respect. I don't know.
All three.
I think it's just if you're making him money, you're on the good side of things. If you're doing your job and you're working for him and earning, then he's fine. But this is where it's really pushing Matt Murdock's character, and now knowing that there's a serial killer on the loose that's starting to gain wind, it's now pushing Matt and his buttons because he knows what Fisk is doing, and he's going to have to kind of regulate his business as he does.
Right.
This is coming off the heels of the murder of the White Tiger, a vigilante who Matt acquitted in court, but by doing so, he also outed his secret identity. Mm-hmm. We have corrupt cops that are using the Punisher's logo as a symbol, and one of them killed the White Tiger.
Yep.
So Matt is now in a very guilt-ridden place, which is no shock if you've ever read the comics. He's always in a state of guilt, in my opinion.
Yep.
And where this episode jumps in, he's going to New York Mutual Bank because he needs to discuss a loan for his law firm, albeit of all days, St. Patrick's Day.
Yeah.
And I love how they tied it into.
Yeah.
And when he goes, he runs into a familiar face who's the assistant bank manager. Pad, who is this?
That would be the one, the only Yusuf Khan, father of one Kamala Khan, a.k.a. Ms. Marvel.
Yes. So it is very cool to see Yusuf back in the MCU in this manner because it works. And it works on just such a small level.
Yeah.
But it's enough to move the story along.
It's that cohesion and that like everything's connected. A little bit of things.
Which is what we need in the MCU because if you're really trying to blend the new Disney Plus shows into the MCU, you need this to happen. And especially if it works, it works. So to see Matt go in there, well, he's trying to be his business as usual.
Yep.
Is it going his way? Well, debatable. I guess we could say. So as we're traveling through, there is some group of hoodlums, shall we say? Maybe we'll say organized crime that decides to come in and rob the bank. It's very precision. It's very precise in how they go about this. And this also is something that raises the eyebrow of one Matt Murdock because as he's there, he can't exactly walk away from this.
Nope.
Because he hears it and he goes back into the bank, which is crazy. And we do know that they are working, as it is revealed later on, to the side plot that is going on when Vanessa was trying to meet with the gangs of New York City about money that is owed. So this is all tying in together for the brooding gang war that is happening under Wilson Fisk's watch. So I like how they set this up because we had that plot, and it's also giving Vanessa more than the marital problems that's going on.
Right.
And to see how they're kind of bobbing and weaving, I think is really hitting the mark. But this is also bringing Matt Murdock back into the case.
Yep.
He's trying to buy time for the police. We're seeing that there is one character that is standing above the rest. I believe the gentleman's name is Devin.
I think so, yes.
And he's in there orchestrating, what is going on and trying to really maneuver things.
Clearly the ringleader.
Yeah. And it's kind of going back and forth a little bit. It's, working the police and trying to see
standard hostage stuff you see in television.
Yeah. So it's, like I say, Devlin is really just trying to work his angles. It doesn't go his way per se. Because like I say, I don't want to say this was filler in this situation. But it was pretty standard business.
Yeah.
Working the deal. I want to escape. I have hostages. What are we going to do?
Right. He needs this. Well, there's nothing in those are the safety deposit boxes. There's no cash in there. Blah, blah, blah. Then he's negotiating with the one hostage negotiator who's not the normal one because, hey, it's St. Paddy's Day and they're out. So the hostage negotiator, they're negotiating, their method of transport out of where they are, and they're like, well, that's going to take us time. It's the middle of St. Patrick's Day, and all the streets are log jammed. And he's like, oh, that doesn't work. I'm going to give you an hour, whatever it is. It's the standard stuff you've seen on TV.
Yeah. So this was, I want to say, straightforward, but this is where I say the origin story begins.
Sure.
We know that Matt Murdock has been guilt-ridden for what's happened.
Yep.
And he understands that Yusuf, who's played by Mohan Kapoor, is trying to, be the good guy.
Yeah.
He's trying to work, like I say, he's trying to save the day, but he can't, and he's wound up caught up in this.
Right.
So Murdoch winds up bargaining to get himself caught in this mess because Khan is trying to stall for time at the bank vault.
Well, and initially, once contact is made with the New York Police Department, and he talks to the negotiator, they're like, well, we need a gesture of good faith. Why don't you send 2 of the hostages out to us? Mm-hmm. And the guy, Devlin, I think is who it was, picks 2 random people out from the group. One's a woman and the other one is Matt. And then the woman starts freaking out because her husband is getting left behind. Yeah. And she's like, no, can't, don't, because she's afraid, obviously, that he's going to get killed. And she's freaking out. No, you got to let him come with me. I can't leave him. Let him come with me, please, please, please. And that's when Matt, is like, all right, I got to do something about this because there's no way the cops are going to be able to do something about this. Negotiates with the hostage or the criminals, like, hey, listen, why don't I stay with you and you let him go? Yeah. And they reluctantly go, you know what? Okay, sure.
Yeah, so it kind of works in the favor, but this is also where the itch comes back for Matt.
Yeah.
And he winds up taking care of 2 of the robbers.
Yeah. Well, because all this is going on, Yusuf is presumed to be the manager of the bank.
Yes.
He's not. He tries telling them, or somebody tries telling him, like, oh, the bank manager, I think it's another worker there, tries telling the criminals, like, sorry, the bank manager's out today. He's not going to be in for a couple hours. That's not good enough for them. They're like, well, one of you has to have access to the bank, and they take Yusuf down to the bank, or down to the vault. Matt plays off of, oh, hey, I got to go. And they're like, you just had your opportunity to leave. You can't leave. He's like, no, I got to go to the bathroom. And they're like, oh, okay. Takes him down to go to the bathroom. At this point, this is when he takes out the one guy. And then he goes down further to where the vault is, where the safety deposit boxes are. And this is where he takes out the second guy. And this next part was probably the most brilliant thing I've seen them do with his quote unquote powers. Mm-hmm. And I say powers because it's, not exactly gifted. It's just, hey, he lost one sense, so the other ones are heightened. He breaks into the safety deposit vault, which is supposed to be impossible. I forget what the number of possible combinations were.
Yeah.
Yusuf said it was some astronomical number. He's like, oh, you'll never break into it. There's a couple thousand, a couple million, whatever it is. It's more than 100. There's all these combinations. You won't possibly get it. And he does.
Yeah.
It was brilliant. I loved it.
Oh, yeah. Well, I mean, they have to show off his radar sense.
Sure.
And everything's heightened. This is how he can see people through sound. It's a great thing in the comics. But to see how they do it on here, I mean, it's a great demonstration of his powers. And especially he's doing this as Matt Murdock.
Right.
This isn't as Daredevil per se.
Right.
And to see Yusuf's reaction to it. And like I say, I like how they were paired off together.
Oh, I did too.
They played off each other very, very well. Well, they find the diamond that everybody's trying to get a hold of. This is what's going to pay off the debt that's owed.
Yep.
So Murdoch winds up taking it, and he does a bait and switch with Devlin. And Cillian O'Sullivan, who plays Devlin, very, very good in this moment, too, because he winds up, fully buying this. The police come storming in because the countdown's on, even though somebody has a gun on Matt's head at this time, too.
Yep.
And they wind up, the police comes in, everything's going crazy. Devlin escapes because he's dressed up as a police officer.
Yeah, he goes into one of the side offices, changes his outfit. All the meanwhile, Matt picks up on something. I don't think he quite knew what it was. He just knew something was off.
He could hear the enhanced breathing and heartbeat of the accomplice because Devlin hands off what he thinks is the diamond to somebody.
Yep.
And Matt knows about this because he's honing in his radar sense, which I like how they're doing with the series in general. they're really showing the demonstration of his power. Like if he really wants to hone in on somebody in an immediate radius. I don't think we've established a power level about this because I know I was getting hit up on social media about this. I'm just that portion. I just say reasons.
Yeah.
But I think for what they're trying to do is say, yeah, he does have his powers, but they're not the driving force of him.
Right.
He's focused on the two people he needs to find. Devlin is one, and then the other person is where he's keeping the eye on, so to speak. Well, as everybody's breaking loose, Devlin escapes, and Matt goes chasing him through the city.
All the meanwhile, he's got one of the robber's mask on.
Yes, which he stole, which is smart.
Yep.
Puts it on. They have a fight in the middle of an alley.
Yeah.
And Matt wins via what pad? Breaks the Devlin's leg.
Yeah.
So for anybody that was worried about them taking it easy per se on Disney Plus, I think we can throw that out the window.
Yeah.
I think that's as good as gone as you can think about.
Yep.
So he winds up taking Devlin out. And then we later find out that the accomplice, well, doesn't have the diamond.
Yep.
Has a hard candy.
Yep. 3 of them.
Yeah. So this was all for nothing in the sense that this really brought out what we've all been waiting to see.
Yep.
And that's the devil inside Matt Murdock.
Getting back in the saddle.
Mm-hmm. So he lets loose all the aggression he's been building up for, the White Tiger's death, Fisk taking office, Foggy, it all just pours out in this episode.
Yeah.
But it ends on a very fun note.
Yeah.
Because Murdock meets back with Yusuf at the bank.
Yusuf tells him, sorry, still not giving you the loan.
Yeah, he says, I'm still not giving you the loan, but let's figure out a way to make this happen.
Yeah.
And he goes, why don't you come over and have dinner with my family?
Yep.
And Matt accepts.
Yep.
So where this means for Kamala on the show, I don't think we'll see her. I think it's a nice Easter egg for down the road.
No, I don't think so either.
I think if anything, because they did explain she's on the West Coast.
Yep.
I will already debunk something. I do not think this is West Coast Avengers.
No.
I know people were immediately on social media saying that. Here's the breakdown what's going to happen. We're going to get young Avengers.
Oh, yeah. That's a given at this point.
And it's going to be with her, Kate Bishop, Stature from Ant-Man. That's a core team that they're slowly going to start building. Obviously, Wiccan, we know, is going to be on the team at some point.
Right.
I would not doubt that maybe, obviously, with how Agatha all along's, certain somebody is the mentor of that group.
Don't forget we got Ironheart coming soon.
Ironheart is going to be coming in June, so we'll have a lot to speculate with that and how Riri is going to be part of that team per se. I would imagine.
You have to figure.
Well, they have a lot of moving parts going on with this. But to wrap up this episode, this is what brought Matt Murdock back. Yeah. That as much as he wants to put away the mask and the Daredevil and the rage inside him, he can't. And he wound up doing the right thing for the wrong reasons per se, I guess. But at the same time, he knows, this is what makes him such a compelling character. Yeah. His guilt is his gift and his curse. Yep. Because it allows him to take the beatings that he does. And granted, he gets the absolute snot kicked out of him in this episode.
Yeah, he does.
And a lot of times, too, when you see him, and this is also a superpower, I want to say, he has to have some kind of healing, because how the hell does he get his crap kicked out of him at night and then he shows up at court the next day not even bruised?
That is a very good question.
Nobody ever asks that. I'm now asking that. And I know we have people at Marvel to listen, so just DM me, because I think we need to know. Yep. That all said, though, with interest, I think really was the origin story about bringing Matt back. Yeah. As weird as it sounds, it really felt like Daredevil was born again in this episode. Yeah. That as much as he didn't want to do it, he put the mask on, and there was something there when it clicked in, and he was going to business, even though it wasn't his own mask.
Right. It was still red.
It was still red. It still did the job it needed to do, and I think that for us as fans, this is a moment that we were waiting to see. Albeit, though, it did have that kind of bridge episode feel to it. I don't want to say filler, because filler, I think, is too strong of a word. Right. But I think this is what it needed to happen as a natural progression for his story. And that is what leads us to our next episode, Excessive Force. Mm-hmm. And this is dealing with the ramifications of the failed robbery. Yep. We have one of the crime lords, Luca, who's played by Patrick Murney, visit one Wilson Fisk. Yep. And
and this is the guy they were trying to, the robbers were trying to steal the money for.
Yeah. And he goes and says, I'm not paying the,
he's calling Fisk on his bluff. He doesn't think Fisk, given his new status and title of mayor and just how public he is, that he can't operate like he used to be. And they're basically calling him on his bluff. They're like, what are you going to do? You're the mayor. Everybody knows who you are. Like, you're not going to do nothing. And Fisk goes, he leaves the room. Fisk goes, fine. Raise the amount to over almost $3 million.
Yeah. Well, that's the one thing that...
And oh, by the way, you have a week.
Exactly. See, they want to walk a fine line.
Uh-huh.
And what is foolish about this is everybody thinks, because Wilson Fisk is in power in the mayoral office, like he's turned away from the life of crime.
Right.
He is never turning away.
He's just a little more subtle about it.
He's very subtle about it, but he's making moves behind the scenes. This is something that he's always done and been, very on top of. So I was not surprised when we saw this go down by any stretch of the imagination. And obviously raising the money, you want to test the boss. I believe the good phrase is F around and find out.
Uh-huh.
And Luca's going to do this. Then we shift gears to a member of the sanitation department of the city.
Uh-huh.
And is informing that there is a billboard painting, so to speak, on the side of a building that depicts one Wilson Fisk, not in the best of light.
No.
And we do know that Fisk wants total control of his image. He does not like having anybody make fun of him.
Right.
He is trying to get the sanitation department to get that down.
Well, and so the sanitation department has been tasked with cleaning this mural, I guess you could say.
Yeah.
And the one guy how long did he say he's worked there? He worked there for like 30-something years,
Yeah, it was something like that.
So he's not exactly new to this job. He's very experienced and seasoned and knowledgeable in what he does. So in a long-about way, like he's trying to tell a story and then they finally get to the point where basically, okay, the paint, and I'm using air quotes here, that is being used isn't necessarily paint per se. It's human blood, and it's from Muse.
Yeah, so they're now breaking down the Muse is actually more than just a Banksy type artist.
Yep.
That he is a serial killer.
Yep.
And trying to get his blood of his victims off. They're analyzing it. So now it's getting tagged to, I believe they said at one point, 60 dead bodies.
Something like that, yeah. All the meanwhile, this is getting explained. We do see a cutaway scene, I guess you could say, whatever you want to call it, where Muse is doing one of these murals, and these two drunk women who are out partying, having fun, whatever. They see him, and obviously word's gotten around enough that people are starting to know at least who Muse is by name. Walk up to him and say, "Aren't you Muse? Can we get a photo with you?"
Yeah.
Turns around and sees the mask, and they both scream.
Yeah. So, if anybody is not familiar, Muse debuted in 2016 in Marvel Comics, Charles Soule and Ron Garney's run.
Chef kiss.
Yeah, this is a great story. We covered it on Turn a Page if you want to check it out on YouTube. This is one that I am very intrigued to see how they pull off, because there is a factor at this time that we don't talk about on here. Not that it's anything bad or anything. This is a time Inhumans are very prominent in Marvel Comics.
Yep.
So his story is tied into that in the comic aspect, but I like how they're setting it up in the show, because obviously you're not going to hear Inhumans get mentioned. I would be shocked if he was.
Yeah, we never know.
But I think if they ever want to go back down the route, I think you should.
Yeah, sure.
I wouldn't doubt they say mutant because of reasons.
Not yet.
I don't want to think so, because we didn't really see this throughout the episode as we'll get into it. We didn't see any powers being used.
Sure.
It was just him being a serial killer, and like you alluded to, he killed the two dead women and left them as a mural to give the city a fair warning of what he's done.
Send him a message.
Draining the blood of them and doing all the horrific things that he does.
Yeah.
And this is right on par with the Charles Soule and Ron Garney story. So, like I said, if you haven't read that, go read it. You'll be a step ahead of everybody else. Or watch the episode on Turn a Page on Nerd Initiative YouTube. We go back to Fisk learning about this at a fundraiser of the New York's elite, if you will.
Yep.
We do see a cameo of someone we have not seen since Hawkeye. And, Pad, do you know who that is?
No.
Jack Dukeness.
Oh,
the swordsman.
Oh, right.
So this is a very, very fun moment. I'll be honest, I was not expecting to see him in any which way, shape, or form on this show.
Right.
But I like the fact that we went all together, like the Marvel vein.
Sure.
Because the essence of the Marvel comics, if anybody doesn't realize, is they made it basically like one world in the sense that you could see anybody at any time.
Yep.
That it's not so much a mic drop moment, if you will.
Sure.
If you see this and to see a cool Easter egg like this play out, that's a very fun moment to see.
Right.
And especially seeing Tony Dalton back in the role, that was wild. But it was also, a real cool thing about tying in different stories and different characters about here.
Right.
And we do know that Swordsman is not exactly down with the plans about rebuilding the port.
Right. Well, I mean, it looks like he's still active because I did catch the little cameo, not this scene, but I think it was at the start of the episode where we had the BB Urich, daily update or whatever you want to call it.
Yeah.
And they were talking about how New York's not safe anymore and this and that. And the one guy she was interviewing was talking about how, there are some people trying to do things. And he had seen swordsmen there. And he did have a photo of swordsmen active, or at least fighting something or training or whatever it was. I couldn't quite tell because it was cell phone photo through the lens of a handheld camera.
Yeah.
So at least it looks like he's still doing something these days.
He's up to something. He's usually up to no good. I mean, in my echelon of Marvel characters, I'm not the biggest fan. It's not like on a Ben Reilly, John Walker Sentry level.
Right.
But I don't understand personally the love affair some
Sure.
fans have.
Sure.
But listen, if that's one of your favorite characters, by all means. I'm not hating on it. I just don't for me, I just haven't seen that wow factor. I think when he's better as a villain.
Oh yeah.
But still, to see it kind of get played out like this, I am definitely excited to see. So dealing with this, Fisk decides to handle this the one way that he has to.
Yeah.
He assembles an anti-vigilante task force.
Uh-huh.
And it's one that, this is something he's played in the comics a little bit. And he starts getting the best of the NYPD.
Yep.
That are down for his cause. We really want to stress that.
Yeah, I was just saying, best of the best of a certain type.
Yeah, this is his loyal soldiers that he wants to do. And he's now said, you have fair reign to do what you want to make the city safe. So basically, he's letting the inmates run the asylum.
Yep.
Which is a scary thing because we see certain characters that were involved in the death of the White Tiger come back.
Yeah.
And they're making some other notable Easter eggs happen as well too. I feel, because I think by the time it's all said and done, we're going to see more characters from the mythos, so to speak, show up. And like I say, Cole North is involved too.
Yeah, Cole North is one of the ones involved. The other one that is involved is a gentleman by the name of simply Powell, who we did see before in the prior Daredevil series, where basically after Karen was shot by Punisher, or who they thought was Punisher, Powell and somebody else went to her hotel room and they told her, we'll be right outside if you need anything. Remember this one? And they're like, she's like, oh, thank you so much. And they immediately left.
Yeah. So it's the corrupt of the corrupt, but now they've given them great responsibility with no power, or with powers. Like I say, no responsibility. Like I say, this is going to get messy before it's all said and done. So they're building up something here, which is going to have a payoff by the season finale. Guarantee you, because I'm already going to call it right now. Frank Castle is coming out of wherever he's hiding up, and the body count will rise.
I don't want much out of the series. I'm not a desperate man. I'm not a I don't have a lot of requests for the series. I would love a scene where Frank Castle meets up with this anti-vigilante task force. And that scene is going to be glorious.
I can just imagine when he sees the skulls on them.
He already knows about the skulls.
Oh, yeah.
Because Matt told him about it.
Right. But
he looked thrilled, by the way.
But for him to see it in person,
oh, yeah.
Oh, you got to lose his... not that he's already the most unstable person on the planet.
Oh, absolutely. And he's going to find out about this quickly because we know how Fisk is about this. And given the fact that more and more people know about Muse and... He's got a body count of like 60-something people, whatever it is. You know Fisk is going to plaster this task force all over the place and news conferences and updates and this and that. And I guarantee you there's going to be a moment, might even be in the next episode, where Fisk is standing there at City Hall with the members of that task force behind him, and he's announcing it to the city and to the world that we're taking our city back. We're not going to let these vigilantes, run things for us and and make us live in fear. Like, it's his whole spin, his whole spiel, and that's when Frank's going to see it.
How bad would it be if Fisk, because he wants to assert his authority, says something like, we're going to set up the Maria Castle Scholarship Fund?
Oh, Jesus.
Based off this, or do something like that.
That's poking the bear.
I know. That's why I say, like, somebody's going to do something stupid like that, and Frank's going to be like, oh, hell no.
It wouldn't surprise me.
Yeah, I
don't think so, but it wouldn't surprise me.
Like I say, or maybe one of the officers will. Like, somebody's going to say something stupid.
So, yeah, somebody's going to... He's gonna try and be the better person and at least not go the full mile. Oh. They're gonna say something stupid and he's gonna be like, all right, I tried to give you a chance.
Yeah, he's gonna go find out, like, because what they're gonna do is they're gonna kill somebody innocent.
Oh yeah,
and he's gonna
father or a mother. Yeah,
something's gonna happen. Like they're gonna
they're gonna orphan some kid.
Yeah, and Frank's gonna be like,
yep,
F this. And it's going to be glorious.
Yep.
All the while, though, they have been building on another little side plot, because we have seen that the niece of the White Tiger has now taken a vested interest about what is going on.
Yep.
So we're seeing Angela, who's played by Camila Rodriguez, believes that her uncle was investigating Muse.
Yeah.
And for some reason, she decides to pick up the investigation.
Of course.
Which, I mean, noble as it is.
Hey,
but
apple doesn't fall far from the tree.
Yeah, so as she's doing this, she goes to Matt Murdock to look for help. And Matt's like, listen, you have to let the police do what they do.
Right, and at this point, Matt's the only person she can reasonably trust.
Yeah, because obviously she knows the corruption in the NYPD, and she's not going to work with them.
Yeah.
So she goes rogue.
Yeah,
and she starts investigating on her uncle's clues.
This ain't exactly Scooby-Doo, kid.
Yeah, and then winds up going down New York subways and gets taken by Muse in a very, very frightening moment.
Yep.
Which, I mean, this is... I don't want to say like they mirrored something in the comics, because they didn't. And like I say, it's a little more tricky because of the Inhuman factor.
Sure.
But there's a lot of themes that they borrowed over for this. And this is why this Muse works and this factor.
Right.
So when Matt gets a phone call saying about Angela's missing, he says, "This is it."
Yeah,
he knows that.
So he knows something. There's something going on.
Yeah, and he knows that it's on his watch,
and he can't ignore it.
Yeah, so he finally says, "I have to be Daredevil."
Yeah,
there's no escaping this.
Yeah,
suits up, takes off. Goes in the subway. Yep. Meanwhile, Angela is knocked unconscious. The blood is getting drained out of her because that's what Muse does. Muse peeks his head out into the subway tracks, and I love the cinematography for this.
Oh, so good.
He appears like he's literally coming out of hell.
Yep.
And comes running and beats the sugar cookies out of Muse.
Yes, he does.
Which... I love seeing this.
I like the way they set the scene up, too, especially how narrow it was. I'm like, ooh, hallway scene. Hallway scene.
Yes. And this played right into Daredevil 101, like you alluded to. And they're beating the absolute you-know-what out of each other.
Yep.
Matt even goes to the level of hanging Muse with a chain. And I like how they set this up, because he didn't kill him. He was listening to his heartbeat slow down enough that he knew he was unconscious.
Yep.
It's little things like that they're nailing with his powers. And
absolutely.
It brings a smile to my face here in seeing this. So he winds up rescuing Angela.
Yep.
But at the same time, he leaves Muse for dead.
Yeah, well, he thinks so.
Well, he thinks so, but he does. But at the same point, I think he did the right call. I'm not disputing this.
Kind of in the same way Obi-Wan Kenobi thought he left Anakin for dead. How'd that work out for him?
Yeah. So Muse gets away.
Yep.
Now, what's going to happen now? I have a feeling, but I want to get to finish the episode, and I can kind of speculate a little bit. Because we dip back to Wilson Fisk at this time. And it's the parallels that they're running between Matt Murdock and Wilson Fisk that, as messed up as it sounds, they're the same coin, just two different sides.
Yep.
Wilson is trying to get away from his Kingpin persona, but he can't. And he has trapped his wife's lover, Adam, in a basement.
It's in an off-site location underground someplace.
Yeah. And he gives him an axe.
Yep.
And he goes, I want you to have a fighting chance.
I mean, noble of him.
I mean, this is just ballsy, but this is Wilson Fisk having almost like that Homelander moment. I can do whatever the F I want. And he literally says, like, bring it.
I mean, this is like a featherweight going up against the heavyweight in the UFC. You ain't got a shot.
It's insane. Because, like, if I was Adam, I'd throw that axe right at his knees and run.
Yep.
I would not even try fighting him. Why? What possessed the man to do it is beyond me. Because obviously, you got your ass captured one time. What makes you think you're gonna?
At this point, Fisk is just playing with his. I don't want to say food.
Oh, he is. No, I was thinking the exact same thing.
I don't want to say food, but he's playing with him.
No, but you could see the assertion of dominance in
this
manner that
he's trying to break him.
Yeah, that he's like literally like you're at my disposal, and like you think you could get away from taking something from me, like you took my wife from me.
Yep.
The only question I'm going to have, obviously, because to sum it up, he beats the absolute snot out of him.
Yeah, he does.
And then he throws him back in the cage.
Yep.
I am wondering to a point, one, does Vanessa know about this? And two, what will be her reaction when she finds it?
No, I don't think she does because I don't think she's even mentioned the fact that Adam is missing. I just I think there was that one little passing mention.
Yeah.
In the therapist's office.
Right.
But past that, she really hasn't brought it up again.
There hasn't been anything came up about it. But this is the question mark we have to answer. So that's how the episode ends, but this is where I'm going to kind of go back. Well, Pat, let me get your final thoughts on this, and we can kind of speculate a little bit.
Sure. Up 2 episodes were phenomenal. Liked them both. Liked 6 a little bit better than 5. Excited to see where this goes because it really feels like we're starting to get into the flow of things after a little bit of buildup.
Yeah. Episode 6 was great. I was singing his praise. It's probably one of the best episodes of the season. Episode 5 was a gateway to get from first arc to second arc. No problems with it. Like, listen, this is great storytelling. You have to do it sometimes. And it was really original bringing Daredevil back. Sure, the catalyst was Angela being kidnapped.
Right.
That was the breaking point. But you have to, all roads start with one step. So this makes sense in that aspect. How he left Muse, obviously he has not found the bodies.
Correct.
We have not gone into the scary times, so to speak.
Correct.
Because it's going to get more graphic as it goes. Now, the question mark would be, how do they sum this up? Because we do know, I guess you could say in a weird sense, if you know the comic story, which, like I say, Daredevil 10 through 14, Charles Soule, Ron Garney run, Marvel Unlimited, or go to your comic shops and go buy it. It's well worth it. If they're going to use Angela in the blind spot a portion of this. Now, granted, I don't think they're going to do what happened to Blind Spot in this.
Right.
But I think that that'll be another catalyst for Daredevil to try stopping Muse, because I think Muse is going to do something very public.
Okay.
Because I think that they're going to almost emulate the courtroom scene that happens.
Oh, okay.
And then after that is where things get crazy, because there's a portion of the story they can't really do.
Right.
Because the Inhumans and Inhuman bylaws.
Right.
And,
reasons.
Yeah, reasons. Like I say, just there's a lot of like political red tape that happens here with the Inhumans.
Sure.
That they're not going to do, which, I mean, they can't.
Right.
They can't really get away from that. So
there's a few hoops they got to jump through.
Yeah, I mean, it's a little weird about it, but like they have to kind of play this well. Like how they're going to translate this on TV. I think if you're trying to do Angela in that role, you did, but now that she escaped, would she go back, or now is this Muse going to try finding her? And because I think, as much as I kid on social media about Karen Page, even though I'm fully convinced next season she's gone,
right?
I don't think that you're going to see Muse attack her,
right,
this season. I think if anything, Muse goes after somebody else in Matt's camp, maybe his love interest,
his girlfriend, yeah,
just because of random luck.
Could be.
But there has to be something for him to get out there. But I think you could see something like that final showdown happen this season. It's just going to be tricky how they get from point A to point B.
Sure.
But I could see like the cop that's helping Matt.
Right, yeah.
Cherry, I think his name.
Something like that, yeah.
I think he could be substituted for Blind Spot in that aspect too. And I could see that moment happen, and then just how they wind up wrapping up Muse. I don't think they say Inhuman. I do think they say mutant. I think that adds
probably.
I think that adds to the paranoia that's going to start building with mutants now popping up in the MCU.
Yeah.
But I think for overall, like they're going to establish that, and then we're going to get into the Chip Zdarsky, Marco Cicchetto run, and that's where you're going to have like Wilson Fisk as mayor really start taking over.
Right.
And that's when you see Foggy come back as The Secret Life of Foggy Nelson, and like you're going to have a lot of good stuff building into.
A lot of unpacking to do.
But I think for how they're going to wrap up Muse this season, I think he does take out somebody, and like I say, Cherry would be the one. I would say, like you have to get somebody close to him. But
see, I don't think Cherry would be enough to like Matt would go after him.
Yeah,
Matt would go to save him, but I don't think it's that necessarily shocking final shot of the season, leave you hanging until the next one moment like that. Like okay, it sucks, but it's not. The girlfriend, not again in the same camp as Cherry. I think it honestly might be Karen if he does end up going that route, just because that's one for fans that, especially where we're at in the story, where just going off what they've shown, not taking out the outside forces and outside comics and what's already happened and everything else, just at its core, what this show is and what we know and what we've been shown.
Yeah,
he's already lost Foggy. He's already lost everything else and everything else he's been through over the course of this character's existence. To then go through everything he's gone through this season, get put through absolute hell, think he's finally back, and then, oops, you got knocked down a peg again because he has Karen. And end with the shot of him finding out, however they want to do it, ransom note, ransom VHS tape, whatever, text message photo, like whatever you want to do, of her strung up in his contraption, getting red, not necessarily drawing the blood yet. If you want to go for ultimate shock value, sure. But she's strung up in his contraption, about to get her blood drawn. Cut to credits.
I mean, they might go that route. I think how they end the season, though, is Matt Murdock gets exposed.
It could be.
I think that maybe it's like a public thing that he does. Or we have a cameo come in from one of the Defenders. I'm still saying we're going to see Jessica Jones at some point.
I think the only thing that might be hanging up, isn't she tied up with, what is it? I think she's doing the Dexter show. I think she's doing something with the Dexter, whatever that is.
But if it's just a cameo, I think she can break away for that.
Yeah.
See, I think the only one that has a problem right now is Mike Coulter.
Yes.
For Luke Cage, because he's tied up with that show Evil, I think it's called.
Something on CBS.
Yeah, it's on CBS. I believe it's that. I don't watch it. So, either way, though, I think we got a lot of moving parts happening. I think the story of Muse has just begun. I think it's going to end with a big bang. And maybe I think it could be a possibility that they set up that Foggy is still alive at the end of the season. Like, there's a note that gets passed to Matt. He reads it, and he's like, oh. So, either way, we have a lot to discuss, don't we, ODPH Society? Hit us up on that hashtag ODPHpod. What is your thoughts on Daredevil episodes 5 and 6 with interest and excessive force on Disney Plus? Daredevil Born Again is rocking and rolling. We want to hear what your take is on the music they're playing. So let us know. All right, we're going to take a quick break. We'll be right back.
Do you like comic books?
What about movies and TV shows?
Well, we may be the show for you.
We're Hops Geek News, a weekly podcast that discusses comics, movies, and TV shows while featuring a beer of the week.
Every week we chat about what we messed up on the week before, and then we dive into what we're reading and watching, as well as some news.
We then wrap it up with a geek-themed topic of the week.
You can find us anywhere you listen to podcasts by searching Hops Geek News.
Cheers.
The content you are listening to is part of the Nerd Initiative Podcast Network. For more info about the home of pop culture positivity, be sure to check out nerdinitiative.com.
Coming back for another segment on this edition of the ODPH podcast, and it's finally stopped.
Yeah, thank God.
We're caught up.
For now.
For now. But Marvel Studios had announced within the past 48 hours that something big was coming. And a lot of social media sites were running with it. A lot of creators were talking like it's earth-shattering. The internet's going to break.
I missed all this because I did not know this was coming today.
See, I got wind of it behind the curtain on mid-Tuesday.
Okay.
And I got DM'd by somebody, shout out. They were like, something is coming.
Right.
I don't know what, but something is coming.
Right.
And I'm like, okay, well, I mean, it could be a response. Obviously, there's been a lot of Spider-Man 4 rumors going on. So it's like maybe we'll find out certain roles. Maybe something's going to be happening, X, Y, and Z. And then it started breaking that some places and some people were touting it was going to be larger than Robert Downey Jr.'s Dr. Doom announcement.
Well,
which, I mean, that is big news depending on what you want to take of it. I mean,
kinda.
It was shocking for the moment it was in because of how they're setting it up, even though I still think it's a body swap and he's going to come back as Tony Stark. Enough said. Which that's not a spoiler. That's just my opinion. So that said, we're all waiting to see.
Yep.
So as we're recording today on Wednesday, in the morning, Marvel Studios unveiled a live video.
Uh-huh.
And it was revealing names in actor chairs that you see on Hollywood sets of many familiar names in the MCU.
Yeah.
And basically announcing that Avengers Doomsday was starting to film.
Which we already knew because that had been rumored for a while.
Well, yeah, because obviously the time frame of when the movies are coming out, it's going to be done same vein as Infinity War and Endgame, 1 year prior to the other.
Yep.
The time is ticking, so they're going to have to get moving, especially with San Diego Comic-Con coming up.
Yep.
And that's going to be a Hall H moment if they want to unveil more, which we don't know as of yet what they're thinking. They might take the year off. Who knows? We were just anticipating what was going to happen, and obviously this has been the first official confirmation, not any alleged art capture art from the film or any concept pieces, anything. This is the official word from Marvel Studios. So we're going to go over the names that have been announced, give our speculation about, like, does it make sense, where we think where it's going, and about possibly is this it or who do we think should be added.
Right.
So, Pat, you got the list ready?
I do, and I'm going off of the list compiled together by the wonderful folks over at Discussing Film over on Twitter or X, whatever you want to call it. So this is not in the order it was revealed, but this is the list. This is just the way they organized it, which I'm looking at these. I don't know how the hell they fit this all into one tweet, but hey, they did. So the cast is as follows. Paul Rudd as Ant-Man. Simu Liu as Shang-Chi. Tom Hiddleston as Loki. Louis Pullman as Sentry. Florence Pugh as Yelena, Danny Ramirez as Falcon, Ian McKellen as Magneto, Sebastian Stan as Bucky, Winston Duke as M'Baku, Chris Hemsworth as Thor, Kelsey Grammer as Beast, James Marsden as Cyclops, Channing Tatum as Gambit. Try to contain your excitement on this next one, Ken. Wyatt Russell as U.S. Agent. Vanessa Kirby as Sue Storm. Rebecca Romijn as Mystique. Patrick Stewart as Professor X. Alan Cumming as Nightcrawler. Lydia Wright as Black Panther. Tenoch Huerta Meja as Namor. Pedro Pascal as Reed Richards. Hannah John Kamen as Ghost, Joseph Quinn as Johnny Storm, David Harbour as Red Guardian, Robert Downey Jr. as Dr. Doom, Ebon Moss-Bachrach as The Thing, and Anthony Mackie as Captain America. Now, we do have a list also from Discussing Film of some notable names not included in the Avengers Doomsday cast. Chris Evans, Haley Atwell, Mark Ruffalo as Hulk, Denai Guerrera as Okoye, Chris Pratt as Star-Lord, Charlie Cox as Daredevil, Benedict Wong as, Wong, Iman Vellani as Ms. Marvel, Jeremy Renner as Hawkeye, Tom Holland as Spider-Man, Oscar Isaac as Moon Knight, Tessa Thompson as Valkyrie, Evangeline Lilly as The Wasp, Paul Bettany as White Vision, Tatiana Maslany as She-Hulk, Don Cheadle as War Machine, Brie Larson as Captain Marvel, Olga Kurylenko as Taskmaster, Dominique Thorne as Ironheart, Sam Jackson as Nick Fury, Haley Steinfeld as Kate Bishop, Elizabeth Olsen as Scarlet Witch, Dakota Johnson as Madam Web, Xochitl Gomez as America Chavez, Teyonah Parris as Monica Rambeau, and Benedict Cumberbatch as Doctor Strange. Now, again, that second list not included in today's cast list.
Okay, so let's break it down from who's been there.
Okay.
Are there any real shocks to you?
The OG X-Men cast?
Yeah.
Which, I mean, now, everyone's shocked, and I was too, because now, first things first, this video that they streamed over the course of, it started at 11 a.m. Eastern. It finished at 4:30, so it was like 5.5 hours.
Yeah.
Total to be a minute and 41 seconds. First half of this, absolute snooze fest.
Yeah.
It was a lot of like, okay, no kidding. Like Thor, Ant-Man, Sebastian Stan, Anthony Mackie. Like, okay, no shit. Like, of course they're going to be in the Avengers movie. It wasn't until literally, and we were having a chat with Nerd Initiative folks about how just stupid this was. And I said at one point, this literally is the epitome of this could have been an email. And it wasn't until you hit when they said Patrick Stewart as Professor X, the collective room, or in this case, the internet went, oh shit. And then they hit another one where it's like Ian McKellen as Magneto, and the internet collectively again went, oh shit. And they progressed to announce the rest of most of the OG cast of X-Men. Mm-hmm. Channing Tatum is a surprise, just because he even said he hoped it wasn't a one and done, but it was looking like it was. But the OG X-Men cast is certainly a surprise. But let's remember, because some folks might not have seen the movie, some might not have seen it in a while. Remember back to whatever year it was. Days of Future Past came out. Fantastic movie if you haven't seen it.
Amazing, yeah.
If you haven't seen it, by the way. End of that movie, basically, gets rid of X-Men 3.
Yeah.
Last Stand.
It wipes it out.
Wipes it out. It retcons. That's the word I'm looking for. It retcons X-Men 3 because Charles is alive, and Jean's alive, and Scott's alive, and everyone from that OG cast is alive. So therein is how that happens. I think this also answers the question of, at least because she wasn't in the cast list, but you have to figure, given the fact Kelsey Grammer is, we know where Monica Rambeau went. She went to at least that iteration of the X-Men Fox timeline. Mm-hmm. So that was certainly a surprise. I was surprised a little bit at Loki getting announced. I figured he would come back at some point. They're not going to be done with him, and he's still got more stories left to tell him, blah, blah, blah. I get all that. I just didn't think it would happen this early. I figured they would have left that if it happened in this. If I figured, all right, if it's going to happen in Avengers Doomsday, they're going to leave that as a surprise. That, like, kind of like the Thor moment in Infinity War, where everyone's like, he just shows up at the kind of the last moment to try and help save the day. I figured they would have done something like that, but I was a little surprised at that. The rest of them, though, not really a surprise.
I mean, I think it's pretty straightforward.
Yeah.
I think the OG X-Men was the biggest surprise of everybody.
Yeah.
Rebecca Romijn back as Mystique.
Holy cow.
James Marsden back as Cyclops. That was wild to me.
Who was asked on the red carpet, or maybe it was a blue carpet, I don't know, for Sonic 3. Mm-hmm. And he's like, nice try.
Well, I think they understand in this day and age, for anybody that's part of that early Fox X universe, the ways of the mouse there, so to speak, and how Disney runs things, you're not saying anything.
Yep.
You're not going to cross that line. I would say, seeing those casts come back, it makes sense because where I think they're going.
Okay, where do you think they're going?
I think that, obviously, with Secret Wars, we're talking about a lot of timelines getting messed in and doing some work there.
Yeah.
I wouldn't doubt that this is the official swan song for the X universe.
You have to figure.
Yeah, involving all those actors.
Of course, we thought that with the Deadpool movie. But...
Right, but I think though in that sense, I think with Deadpool you can't do that. Like that was more of a love letter from that studio to the fans.
Sure.
Which makes sense.
Sure.
But this is an MCU film.
True.
So I think what they want to do is they have their own vision of what they want to do for the X-Men.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think it lines up with what they did over at Fox. And I think with a lot of the characters the actors that were playing these characters, you have to think when the first X-Men movie was 2000.
Yeah.
It's 25 years ago.
Yep. Which is wild to think
of.
Oh
my God, yeah. That's a whole thing I can't wrap my head around.
Yeah.
When you see this play out, like it makes sense to give them their final moment, and then that universe is gone as we know it.
Mm-hmm.
What I didn't like about this, is we got a listing of the Thunderbolts characters.
Yeah, they're basically telegraphing or at least hinting at the end of Thunderbolts.
Yeah, you've literally given the movie away. In my opinion. Because the only one that I would say is on here, unless they do some weird thing of time travel and you jump into the movie.
Okay.
Taskmaster's gone.
Yeah.
Which we all kind of speculated a little bit. Everybody else from that team is here, including David Harbour's Red Guardian.
Yep.
And Ghost, who I was shocked.
Yeah.
I was shocked. Like, that was probably the biggest surprise to me. I'm going, really?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, interesting.
Yeah.
But depending on what they want to do. And obviously, we know Lewis Pullman was not going anywhere. Bob is back.
Right.
Yeah. But that really takes away from that movie, I feel.
Yeah.
And especially with that's supposed to be the setup, because with Fantastic Four being a alternate universe period piece, if you will,
right,
this is kind of the last current MCU film until we get to Avengers Doomsday.
Right.
I think it's I think they telegraphed themselves. I did not like that move.
Yeah.
I don't think we needed to give that away.
Yeah.
For whatever reason they opted to, and maybe it's just to throw people off.
It could be.
Because what they could do, and I think this would be smart if they did, is they wind up killing off more of this cast from Thunderbolts than they want to admit.
Could be.
And this movie starts with a flashback to this moment. I could see something like that.
Sure.
But I think overall, though, there wasn't anything that was really crazy except maybe Alan Cumming coming back as Nightcrawler.
Did not see that coming. I figured if they were going to bring Nightcrawler back in any way, shape, or form, it'd be like a younger version.
Yeah, I thought they would have gotten the actor who played him on the last First Class stuff.
Yeah.
I could see that.
Yeah.
But I think in this aspect, yeah, this was kind of crazy. Kelsey Grammer coming back as Beast.
That's not a surprise, really.
That's not a surprise because we had the Marvel's bonus scene.
Right.
So
right.
That said, it's like I'm not completely shocked at. Like,
I will say I think they're telegraphing at least a little bit of what this movie might be. And I think what's the one story people have wanted ever since it was announced Marvel and Disney reacquired the rights to X-Men?
Secret Wars?
Well, yes, but Avengers vs. X-Men.
Yeah. Oh.
I don't think they're going to do the full blown, but at least it'll be a version of that. And the reason I think that, I think it's going to be something like that with Doom pulling the strings.
Yeah.
Because we know Doom thinks in like 9 different levels of intellect and everything else, and he's super smart, and he's always 9 steps ahead of folks. I think it won't be a full-blown Avengers vs. X-Men, because if you go read the story, I don't think the comic, I don't think it's going to be that. I think it's going to be a version of it, just because you look at how this is set up with, and especially you go watch the video, because that's the first quote-unquote teaser trailer, if you want to call it that. That's the way they kind of set this up, is it's a bunch of the Avengers that we know and love, although for whatever reason they included Kelsey Grammer super early in the cast chair list. And then they put all of the OG X-Men cast members together. Why, I don't know, but reasons. But that's just kind of the way they booked it, was all the MCU folks you knew. And then came the surprise. That was the first, 4 hours or whatever it was. And then the last hour or 2 hours, whatever the time works out to be, was when you got hit with Patrick Stewart, Ian McKellen, all the other, James Marsden and Channing Tatum and Rebecca Romijn, Romaine and Alan Cumming. And like, that's when you started getting hit with the OG X-Men cast. You're like, whoa, like, where was this the last 4 hours? Well, I think they're setting it up for at least a version of that.
Maybe a version, which, I mean, if they want to give the OG X-Men their run at it, sure. I think, though, it all depends on how they want to transition to the actual 616.
Sure.
The actual MCU.
Sure.
That's the biggest X factor, no pun intended. I think we have to wait and see about it, but to see that casting come back, and like I say, to see we're taking Alan Cummings' Nightcrawler. We're taking Kelsey Grammer's Beast, like I said, doesn't shock me. Channing Tatum's Gambit, that's based off Daredevil and Wolverine. Or Deadpool and Wolverine. You can't tell me otherwise. But I think it ties up a lot there, and it's going to give them their MCU moment in the sun, so to speak.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, you could say the Deadpool Wolverine is one, but I'm sorry, that felt more like a Fox movie. That was like, you can tell the Ryan Reynolds stamp on that.
Yes.
More than that felt like a Kevin Feige stamp.
Yes.
So I'm just saying with that. But I think, though, overall, like I say, nothing was super shocking. I mean, it's great to see that we are going to get Simone Liu back as Shang-Chi. Which finally, where the heck has been the sequel for that? Yeah.
Well, they announced it, and they talked about it, but whatever.
Yeah. And then, I mean, to go into who got the quote unquote snub, and I'm going to say snub because they're not playing the whole hand here.
No, I mean it's been kind of revealed that this is the what they announced today, that there will be more coming down the road.
Oh yeah, well I mean I think the even money is Chris Evans is coming back.
Oh yeah,
in some way.
Yeah.
Elizabeth Olsen, I don't care what anybody's saying, she's coming back.
Yeah, she's trying to say she's not coming back.
Yeah, good luck with that. Like I'm not buying it. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
No way.
Yeah.
I think you're gonna see.
None of the Guardians got it.
Yeah, I was gonna say you'll see Chris Pratt come back.
Chris Pratt is on Earth right now.
Well, that's the whole thing. Like they've set it up where they could come back.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. I know there's some question about She-Hulk and Moon Knight. I will say maybe.
Yeah.
I think that would make sense if they wanted to. Me personally, I would love to see Oscar Isaac pop into Daredevil, Born Again.
Yes, please.
Just one episode, just do the thing and bounce. Unless they want to try going back to the Moon Knight, like I say, they could. I think Daredevil Born Again is going to open up some doors for that, possibly.
Right.
But I say the She-Hulk, I could see them seeing her in there. I don't think we're going to see Miss Marvel and the Young Avengers.
Mm-hmm.
I just don't. I don't see the purpose in this moment. They're going to be doing their own show, so I don't think at this moment we need them.
Right.
As far as the X-Men, I was waiting to hear about Wolverine.
Yeah, I'm a little surprised that Hugh wasn't mentioned.
Yeah,
at all.
I was surprised, or even Famke Janssen back as Jean Grey.
Because the way, like you said, if you go watch the video, the way it played out over the course of fucking 5.5 hours.
Yeah, it's 5.5 hours.
5.5 hours, which was, sorry, Marvel, asinine. Just the way it was playing out, that you started rolling one after another of the OG cast members. I'm sitting there, like, especially once they said James Marsden, they showed James Marsden's chair. I'm like, well, Famke Janssen's got to be next. And it wasn't.
Yeah, or even Hugh Jackman coming back.
Yeah,
like the only one I would say I was not expecting in any way, shape, or form was Ryan Reynolds.
Right.
I'm sorry. Like I don't think the Deadpool needs to be in this.
No,
that's just me. Casting. I would have thought if you really wanted to go a route here, why has nobody called Clark Gregg yet? And Agent Coulson.
That's true.
I don't understand this.
I feel like though, at the same token, though, he's been quote unquote dead from the events of Avengers for over 10 years now.
Right.
Like, if they were going to bring him back, they would have brought him back ASAP.
Oh, I think so. But I think now, especially with the debate going on about his AOS, Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., canon or not, like officially. I know Kevin Feige kind of said no, but then again, we saw the power of Daredevil come in. We know that Chloe Bennett's Quake has been heavily rumored about.
She said she's been willing to play the character.
Yeah. I could see that possibly winding up happening.
Yeah.
I think that would be a fun nod. I mean, obviously, there's a lot of moving parts, and if they just want to do Coulson as an LMD, that's fine. Like there's ways to do this, but I think for how deep they're diving to do this, because we all know this is going to be the Jonathan Hickman story of Secret Wars. So we do know who the main players are. That's where we're kind of honing in on. That's why I say like you could do some fun Easter eggs here too, because I think for all these characters that we're going to see on screen again, it's not going to be for that long.
No.
Like, we're talking...
I expect the ones we got announced today are the ones that are going to feature pretty heavily, at least in some capacity. I don't think they're going to get, say, the M'Baku or Drax treatment from Endgame, where both of those characters are in, like, 2 scenes in the entire movie, and that's it.
Yeah, I don't think so either.
And Drax is literally like blink and you miss it.
Yeah, I think they'll hit their key points.
Yeah.
And I think that it all depends. Like, I'm not saying you're going to see another Blip 2.0.
No.
But I think like a lot of these characters are going to get killed off. You're going to see the other heroes that aren't mentioned get brought in. I mean, would it be great to see a Spider-Man Daredevil appearance on the big screen in this moment? Yeah, because I could see that happening more so than in Disney Plus. We do know, obviously.
Well, and Spider-Man can't appear on. We should note this for the record too. Because of the deal worked out between Disney and Sony, Spider-Man cannot, and I repeat in all caps, bold and italicized, cannot appear on any Disney television.
Disney Live
television. That's why he's only in the films.
Yeah, so I mean, like I say, there's ways they could try moving that around, but that's what I say, in the films you could see him.
Right.
And that might be a place you do it. But I think for where all roads go to Secret Wars, there wasn't any shock except just seeing how they're set up, and I have a feeling we're going to see a lot of Battle World, which, I mean,
probably
it is what it is.
Yeah.
But I think for the casting we got, I think there's a lot that makes sense.
It's exciting.
Oh, it's exciting as hell.
Yeah.
I mean,
I will admit, the first half was kind of ho-hum, like, okay, no shit. Like, Thor, Ant-Man, Shuri. Like, no shit. Like, it's like telling me water's wet. But then we started getting to the X-Men stuff. I'm like, okay, here we go. Now I'm back in.
well, that's the selling point.
Yeah.
That's the selling point of, and I think for anybody, and I can't take credit for this because I saw a few people post this online. Anybody worried about superhero fatigue? How many people sat through all 5 hours
Oh, Lord.
of this announcement, let alone did live streams?
Oh, Lord.
Okay, like let's just put this in perspective. You want to break that down? That is your ultimate answer, end all be all to superhero fatigue.
Mm-hmm.
And if anybody debates you about this, point to this moment in time
Yeah.
that you saw pop culture stop.
Mm-hmm.
Did this shatter the internet? No.
Yeah.
But did they stop and pay attention for 5 hours?
Right.
Absolutely.
Well, and yeah, the superhero fatigue. There's too many DC, too many Marvel movies. Listen, there are 3 movies out this past weekend that were not DC movies, were not Marvel. Was not Marvel, was not DC, was not anything, and did not exactly do home runs at the box office. So
Right.
you want to sit there and you want to say, oh, everyone's tired of Marvel, everyone's tired of DC, it's that, the other. Like, okay, you had Snow White, which remake, number 1 at the box office, because of course it was. You had Black Bag, original film, domestically made a little over $4 million at the box office this past weekend.
Mm-hmm.
Novocaine, original film, only made $3 million at the box office this past weekend. And then you had the other one, Mickey 17, which these 3 films, not in their first week, but admittedly still, Mickey 17, only $3.6 million at the box office this weekend. So you want to sit there and say, oh, there's too many Marvel films, there's too many DC films, there's not enough original films. There were 3 in the theaters, and are 3 still in the theaters right now. You want to have that argument, you want to have that discussion, at least show up and pay the money to go see those movies.
I'll even simplify it for you even more. How many viewers tuned in for Daredevil Born Again?
A couple, what was it, like 7.5, the premiere, 7.5 million, I think.
Okay. How many people have been tuning in for Invincible on Amazon Prime?
That I don't know.
But big hit, though.
Right.
What are 3 of the most anticipated movies at the box office this summer? Thunderbolts,
Yep.
Fantastic Four,
And Superman. Yeah.
You can swap out placement of like where your ranking is.
Right.
If you want to say in the top 5, they're up there with what? Jurassic World?
Yeah.
Whatever it is.
Yeah,
and,
the new Jurassic World.
And then Mission Impossible, right?
Yeah, I think that's coming out this year. Something like that.
Okay. So you can swap out the most anticipated stuff right there.
Right.
3 of them are comic movies.
Yep.
Why is that? Because pop culture still wants to see them. Mm-hmm. Even as the numbers for Captain America Brave New World in some people's minds were not great.
Right.
They still generated a budget and still generated money. Would I say it was a flop? No. Was it end game level, which everybody's expecting it anymore? No. It was what it was, but still, in my opinion, I thought it was a successful film.
Right.
Thunderbolts is probably going to be right around that same area.
Right.
And then Fantastic Four is going to be the big one for Marvel this year.
I can't pull up any viewer numbers for what
Sure.
Invincible got for this season, but I'll give you the IMDb scores, which grain of salt, but still, you look at the size of these votings. I'll give you the last 3 episodes. Episode 6, titled "All I Can Say Is I'm Sorry," out of 13,000 votes or ratings, 8.8 out of 10.
Mm-hmm.
Episode 7, titled "What Have I Done?" Out of 31,000 ratings, 9.7. And the season finale, titled "I Thought You'd Never Shut Up," out of 68,000 ratings, 9.9.
Yeah.
Which is the highest I've ever seen anything on IMDb for an episode.
Yeah. So like I say, for anybody worried about the quote-unquote fatigue, stop. Because guess what? There is no such thing.
Mm-hmm.
I think the only thing that you'll hear is passionate fans are expecting the bar to hit endgame levels.
Right.
And that's not going to happen.
Right.
Secret Wars has the most pressure on it of all things because at the end of the day, that is going to be the end-all, be-all, greatest Marvel film they could ever possibly do, unless they somehow come to an agreement and do JLA Avengers.
Oh, Lord.
That's like literally, there is no other bigger comic book movie they could do.
No, there's not.
Like Marvel-wise, even if it's Avengers versus X-Men, it's still not going to be up that level.
Right.
Because the story was not great. It's JL Avengers.
Yeah.
That's it. That is the epitome of comic book movies. If that movie ever gets done, there will be nothing that will ever top that. Ever. In the meantime, though, we have great stories to build off of, and Secret Wars is arguably one of Marvel's last big events that really captured that event feel. That's why fans are so gravitating towards this. But everybody wants to get back to that same vibe.
Yeah.
And when you do that transition phase, it's a weird dance with pop culture. We've talked about this so many times on this show.
Yeah.
That to win over the comic audience, we're the toughest critics ever because we're the ones that go to the LCS every single week. We're the ones who are reading this.
Yup.
For the pop culture audience, they only know what they see on Disney Plus or at the box office. They're not following. They're not in the shops, which they should start going. Then be paying off more dividends than ever. But at the end of the day, the fatigue factor is over. And point blank, hearing the names on this list really set a high benchmark now.
Oh, yeah.
And there's now more buzz going into this movie season than we had. That's going to generate more people trying to go to the comic shops, hopefully, to go get Secret Wars and get a step ahead of everybody else. And Thunderbolts now has got some pressure on it because now you've already revealed what's going to happen.
Yep.
It has to deliver on some aspect. And then Fantastic Four, I think now more people are going to be that much excited for. And there is now more pressure on that because now you've made them such a centerpiece of Avengers Endgame or Doomsday. It has to hit. So interesting play that Marvel Studios did today. Did it shock the world in some degrees? Yes. Did it break the internet? No. Did it drain your phone battery?
Oh, boy.
Yes, it did. But hit us up and let us know your thoughts on this Avengers Doomsday casting. Pad's on board. I'm on board. But are you on board, ODPH Society? Hit us up. Let us know. We're going to get our last breakout. We'll be right back.
Hey, this is Scott Snyder, and you better listen to the ODPH podcast, or I'm coming for you, and Batman is coming for you.
Coming back for the final segment on this edition of the ODPH podcast. Pad, what you got?
Got a couple things to talk about. The first is some happy news, and that is the folks over at Game Informer are back.
What?
Yeah, so about a year after they closed shop or were shuttered by their parent company, the entire team, editorial, writers, you name it, is all back. And Game Informer, if you go to the website right now, is back. So reading from a letter from the editor being Matt Miller that was released on March 21st. I'm not going to read the whole thing, but the letter does read in part, quote, I was devastated last summer when Game Informer was shuttered by our prior parent company, and so was the rest of our team. Not only did we really relish working together, but we also thought we were doing something valuable in contributing to the conversation around the gaming hobby. The article does go on, or the letter does go on to say, quote, over the months since two remarkable things happened. The first is that Game Informer as a brand and an outlet was purchased and given a new lease on life. The second is that the entire team that was working together at Game Informer's closure has returned, from editorial to production and beyond. The entire team. Seriously, I'm still pinching myself. If you've followed our work in the past, you know what that means. Our outlet has always been about more than just things we cover. It's also about the people. Our teammates are stewards of a legacy going back more than 30 years, including dozens of prior writers, editors, designers, and other creative voices that shaped the way we approach talking about the gaming hobby. With the brand and team reunited, we can move forward with confidence that we're maintaining that unbroken identity of who we are and what we represent. How did this happen? After first touching base with our team and ensuring our interest, the team at Gunzilla Games secured the rights to Game Informer. From the start, the new owners insisted on the idea of Game Informer remaining an independent editorial outlet. They felt just as strongly as our team did that only path forward was with an editorial group that made 100% of the decisions around what we cover and how we do so, without any influence from them or anyone else. Game Informer now operates under an entity called Game Informer Inc. Our intent is to continue to focus on highlighting the coolest games, celebrating the history and legacy of the gaming industry, and shining a spotlight on the creators and players who are charting its future. I am deeply grateful for the trust and enthusiasm from the team at Gunzilla Games. They see the same potential in Game Informer as our team does, and their encouragement to do so ethically and free of outside pressure is laudable, close quote. So the website is back up. All of their previous reviews are up. They even have some reviews from when they were shuttered and closed that are up now. They've got their best games of 2024 list.
That's why
up. It does not appear that they're going to be bringing back the publishing side of things. It looks like they're just going to be a strictly online thing. But hey, I am all for it. Game Informer was one of my favorite magazines to read as a kid growing up, and I'm glad they're back.
I'm glad to see them back too. I think the digital route is the way to go.
Yeah.
I mean, physical is tough these days.
Yeah.
In my opinion, but if they can make a go of it, sure. But it's awesome to see them back though. It's stunning news to me.
Then we got some James Bond news, and I will admit, once the prior powers that be left, I was a little nervous, a little skeptical about who Amazon was going to bring in to run the ship, but it's been announced who's running the ship after some rumors. Those rumors proved to be true, and you know what? I'm on board with those rumors. Reading from an article from thehollywoodreporter.com, quote, "It's official. The James Bond franchise has found its producers in Amy Pascal and David Heyman.
Okay.
The duo have been tapped by Amazon MGM to steer the new Bond film, the first to be produced by someone outside the Broccoli family. Pascal will produce the film via Pascal Pictures, with Heyman producing via Heyday Films. It wasn't made immediately clear if they would be producing Bond titles beyond the next film. The selection comes after Amazon MGM closed the deal with Barbara Broccoli and Michael G. Wilson, the producers whose family has been producing 007 movies since the 1960s, to take over creative control of the Bond franchise. In today's announcement, Amazon MGM highlighted both Pascal's and Heyman's track record in franchise filmmaking. Pascal is behind the Spider-Man franchise, with the Tom Holland-fronted films grossing over $3 billion at the global box office, while Heyman shepherded the Harry Potter franchise, including the spin-off series Fantastic Beasts, to commercial highs. Quote, "We are approaching every creative decision with James Bond, with Barbara Broccoli and Michael G. Wilson have so masterfully steered, with the greatest sense of responsibility," said Amazon MGM Studios head of film Courtney Valenti. "Part of an elite group of producers who have developed and managed massive film franchises to box office success and critical acclaim. Amy Pascal and David Heyman are two of the most accomplished, experienced, and respected film producers in our industry." And then Pascal and Heyman said in a joint statement, quote, "James Bond is one of the most iconic characters in the history of cinema. We are humbled to follow in the footsteps of Barbara Broccoli and Michael Wilson, who made so many extraordinary films, and honored and excited to keep the spirit of Bond very much alive as he embarks on his next adventure," close quote. So the reason, as they alluded to, I'm excited about this is obviously Amy Pascal did the Spider-Man movies. David Heyman did the Harry Potter, producer on the Harry Potter films. More so David Heyman than Amy Pascal. It's nothing against Amy Pascal, but I know with especially David Heyman's track record, you look at those Harry Potter films, rich with British, acting talent across the board, top to bottom. So I know there were some folks that were worried, Amazon's going to come in and we're going to get some Midwestern United States actor as James Bond. I don't think that's the case. I think things are going to be in, for right now, relatively safe hands.
I mean, I think it's just the uncertainty factor of something new. But, I mean, this is sounding like a step in the right direction. I mean, I even heard something last night on Turn a Page, too, I think would make you smile.
Yeah.
Somebody made it a bucket list comment about writing a James Bond comic.
Oh.
David Pepos.
Oh, take my money.
Yeah, I was going to say.
Take my money.
Just to throw that in, because he mentioned something about, that'd be awesome to do. I'm like, I now need this in my life.
Take my money.
Turn a Page is available right now. Actually, you can hear the podcast version on ODPH Network, so check it out.
Then we got some unfortunate news, although, I kind of saw it coming.
Yeah, I mean, this is predictable.
Yeah, so there's been an animated Smallville sequel series rumored for quite some time now. With even Michael Rosenbaum attached to it and Tom Welling talking about doing it. But co-creator of Smallville, Alfred Goff, has gone on the record and said it looks like it's off the table for now, with Warner Brothers doing everything they're doing with Superman. So the article on Variety.com does read, quote, co-creator Alfred Goff says his animated follow-up to Smallville will have to wait until Warner Brothers is finished with James Gunn's Superman. Warner's has obviously gone through a lot, and I think the fact they are in the process of rebooting Superman again, unfortunately, I think, keeps our thing off the table for a bit. Goff told Smallville stars Michael Rosenbaum and Tom Welling on their Talkville podcast. Fantastic podcast, by the way. Everything comes around in one form or another. I just read the other day that they are rebooting Buffy for Hulu. Co-created by Goff and Miles Millar, Smallville ran for 217 episodes across 10 seasons on the CW. The show followed a teenage Clark Kent learning to harness his powers for good in the quaint town of Smallville, Kansas. Goff went on to add another wrinkle in the Smallville sequel series could be in the regime change that happened over at Warner Brothers in 2022. Gunn and Peter Safran were named co-CEOs of DC Studios, a then freshly minted production arm tasked to oversee DC properties at WB. Quote, that is the thing. I think the problem with most projects in development in any studio and or any network is regime change, Goff said. Close quote. So not super surprising. I mean, we saw a little bit of this with the Arrowverse shows where, what was it, season 2? We had a whole plot line with the Suicide Squad that then got axed mid-season because, hey, the movie was getting ready to come out. So unfortunate, but you know what? All things will come around eventually.
Well, I mean, the thing you got to remember, too, is the movies run everything when it transitions to pop culture.
Yep.
Everything is dictated by the pace of the movies. So if James Gunn and his franchise are all 100% in on Superman, there is nothing that's going to outshadow it, nor should it.
Right.
After it, fair game. But if you want to say DC is back, you don't do this beforehand. So it makes complete sense to me. You can go crazy after this movie comes out. Nobody's going to mind anything.
Yeah.
But this is also the pressure that James Gunn is having with this film, but it makes perfect sense to me.
Yep. And then we got some Invincible news for season 4. Ain't much, but hey, it's something. That is, we got at least a release window. It's going to be sometime in 2026. We do know voice acting is complete. This is coming from the Invincible HQ Twitter account. It does go on to say, quote, there may be a new storyline not in the comic featuring Dark Blood. It also goes on to say Thrag has been cast and Invincible has also been cast.
You know what? I'm all right with that.
Breaking news. We know who Invincible's been cast.
I mean, this just in water is wet. Like, listen, I'm all right with this.
Yeah.
I think waiting a year, I mean, in animation, it's tougher.
Oh, yeah.
But the thing is, where Invincible stands with the comic community, they're going to turn out in droves.
Oh, yeah.
Pop culture will tune in when they catch wind that it's coming back. But as far as like the comic diehards, yeah, we'll be there day one. So we don't have to worry about that. So and they've done such a masterful job with it. I mean, I don't mind the wait for a year.
Absolutely.
As long as it's not more than a year, then I'm going to be like, ugh. But speaking of comics, it is new comic book day here. So, Pad, what is on your pull list this week?
I'm going to recommend 3 things to you fine folks at home. First of which is Ultimate Spider-Man issue number 15. Jonathan Hickman is writing, so you know it's going to be good. This one reads, quote, the Ultimate Sandman attacks. As the dust settles from the events of recent issues, Peter, MJ, and the kids take a family vacation. But nowhere is safe for Ultimate Spider-Man, close quote. For those of you who read this, tell me who Ultimate Sandman looks like in this comic. I put it in my review of Nerd Initiative because I saw it on the page and I couldn't get it out of my head. I know it's not who I say it looks like, but it looks like him. So tell me if I'm right or if I'm completely off base. Fantastic issue, by the way. Then you've got also from the folks at Marvel, The Amazing Spider-Man issue number 70 from Joe Kelly. This one reads, the 8 deaths of Spider-Man concludes. Enter the Spider-Naut. Who is this unstoppable webbed wonder? This issue, just based on the cover alone, absolutely amazing because
that's a dope cover.
I'm not sugarcoating anything, folks. Peter Parker has a juggernaut body. The first half of this issue is everything you would have wanted: knockdown, drag out, destruction that even shocks Doom and Doctor Strange a little bit. But it's a fantastic issue, and I'm real excited to see where things go because it seems like everything's all hunky-dory and everything's all hey, happy ending. It's all over. Let's not forget there's a certain Victor Von Doom that's still the Sorcerer Supreme. So, gonna have that to deal with.
And this is the last issue before they do the relaunch, correct?
I believe so, yeah.
Yeah.
So we'll see what happens.
Yeah, it's going to be an interesting one to say farewell to.
Mm-hmm. Then you've got, also from the fine folks at Marvel, and this one from Kevin Scott, Star Wars The High Republic, Fear of the Jedi, issue number 2, and this one is The Battle for Naboo begins as Keeve Trennis prepares to breach the Stormwall. The Lorna D of old returns with murder on her twisted mind. The villainous Nihil still hold Naboo, but for how long? A call to arms is heard and battle lines drawn. So I will say, this issue, if you're reading it by itself, may not mean all that much. If you've listened to the audio drama that came out in October or November last year, I forget when it came out. I just finished listening to it, but it's absolutely fantastic. That would be the one called Tempest Breaker, also by Kevin Scott. That coupled with the issue of the High Republic Adventures that came out last week makes this story mean a whole lot more. So I'm not saying it's required reading, but if you want to enhance just exactly what's going on, because this one's kind of, I don't want to say filler, but it's kind of like adjacent to High Republic Adventures from Dark Horse. You know, it kind of builds on itself and it kind of all interconnects and all that. So it does add to it a little bit, but it's still a fun issue.
Yeah, I mean, this is one High Republic is starting to gain a little more traction. I think we're seeing a lot more stories coming out of it, which is good. I mean, not everything needs to be Skywalker, folks.
Right.
Just putting it out there.
Right.
All right, my pull list. Oh, you know, every week I say it's crazy, and this one, for me, nostalgia-wise, it definitely got me.
Mm-hmm.
Batman 158 pad.
Yeah.
Jeff Loeb, Jim Lee.
Oh, Christ.
Hush 2
shit.
starts.
Oh, shit.
So if you know me well, Jim Lee is arguably my favorite artist of all time.
Right.
It's arguably.
Right.
Like, listen, he has defined my vision of like what the X-Men should be forever and a day. Wildcats is amazing. And Hush was crazy to see. And this one, I will admit, like I say, it's visually as impressive as ever. Story-wise, I understand where they're going with it, but I felt like some stuff might have been a little too telegraphed. Just a little bit. But it's still worth picking up. This is arguably going to be the biggest issue at the comic shops this week. I don't think there's any question about that. And it's one that I definitely want to talk to some readers about. So hit me up on social media. Let me know your thoughts of it, because I really want to kind of deep dive into this a little more. But my review is up, and you can definitely go check that out. But damn, this, like I say, just the artwork in this alone is a must-buy. This cover is just amazing. Next up, DC Comics yet again, and this is one I've had my eyes on ever since I heard who is the creative team behind it. This is one of my favorite characters at DC. Absolute Martian Manhunter.
Oh, shit.
Dennis Camp, Javier Rodriguez.
You sold me on it.
This is an absolute trip in every single imaginative vision of the word. This is something like you've never seen before. It is playing on a lot of different elements that is Martian Manhunter. I'm all in about this. This is just, like I say, hearing the take, and especially it's Dennis Camp, who right now might be comics' biggest writer right now.
Uh-huh.
You have to think Ultimates, Assorted Crisis Events, Absolute Martian Manhunter. Like, he is
3 of the biggest books this month.
Yeah, he's on fire right now. So, and I mean, Javier Rodriguez's art is absolutely mind-blowing in this. This is not like anything you're going to pick up at the shop. So if you really want to take a deep dive, and especially into a character that, if they can pull this off,
right,
it's going to be legendary, because Martian Manhunter is in that weird echelon, at least as far as I'm concerned, with DC, like Hawkman, and a few other characters that you try, and Aquaman too, even though right now Jeremy Adams and John Timms are absolutely crushing that series.
Right.
They can't sustain a regular series for whatever reason. They're great characters. It just doesn't happen for whatever reason. So if Martian Manhunter can pull it off, especially with the team behind it, I think it's a big bucket to win. Where they go win the first issue, I fully think they're hitting the right spots with that. Black Canary, Best of the Best, number 5. This is Tom King, Ryan Sook, and it's the penultimate issue. This has been the fight going on between Black Canary and Lady Shiva. Tom King, I know, is very polarizing to some fans. I really dig his work, because he goes to a very personal place with a lot of his characters.
Oh, yeah.
And I know, like I say, I very much enjoy his stuff. And I'm not saying everything's a home run,
right?
But I will say that about any single writer or artist too. This book, though, has really got me sold, and I like where they're going with it. I don't know how this is going to end. I really don't. Like, this is going to be some kind of weird mind trip thing that happens, and I'm gonna be sitting here going like, what did I just read? That's the vibe I'm getting from it. But like, listen, I think Sook's art captures the WWE UFC style to the letter.
Yeah,
and the story that Tom King's weaving to with Black Canary and her mom, I think, is absolutely a trip. So you definitely want to keep that on your pull list as well. Green Lantern 21, Jeremy Adams, Jack Herbert's on the art for this, and this is kind of a lot of moving parts happening here because they're dealing with the Starbreakers storyline too.
Oh, okay.
Plus, it's a return of a familiar foe.
Yep.
And you'll have to see to believe. But like I say, Jeremy Adams is really doing a lot of cool things here, especially with Green Lantern. It can get a little tricky at times, but he's pulling it off masterfully.
Nice.
DC Comics strikes yet again. Mark Waid, Dan Mora. Need I say more?
No, you can really just stop.
Justice League Unlimited #5. And, we're going a lot of places. The Inferno group has been attacking in the shadows. The first 4 issues, they've really put a dent into the biggest lineup of Justice League members you've ever seen. And we get some big payoffs here. We get a reveal of sorts. And, Pat, I'm just going to show you the cover.
Oh, Lord.
Yep. So how does the Legion of Doom tie into this? We're going to have to pick up the issue and find out.
Reasons.
Reasons indeed. Also, DC Comics yet again, Dan Mora again, but he's doing the cover for this. He's actually taking the issues off. This is Eddie Barrow and Iber Ferreira on the art with Joshua Williamson. It's Superman 24. So this is dealing with the fallout of the Doomsday Time Trapper storyline.
Okay.
So, as you can see on the cover, it's Lois and Mercy Graves and the fate of Supercore. And, well, we've been building for a moment to happen here, and we got that and then some. That's all I'm going to word it at because Superman 25 is going to be absolutely bananas.
Yeah.
So you can't miss what's happening in this issue. Image Comics, Black Market Narrative, Radiant Black 32, Kyle Higgins, Joe Clark, Eduardo Ferragato. This is continuing what's going on with Marshall Ward and his life post the Catalyst War. A lot of personal looks, too. Like I say, where Kyle, I think, is going with this issue is really deep diving into the life-work balance, so to speak, of being Radiant Black. And they're also dealing with a very big threat happening in the Massiverse. So a lot of cool things happen in this. What can you say? Radiant Black is back, and this is something all comic fans can definitely get behind. Last but certainly not least, I've been waiting for this issue to come out for quite some time. We're taking everybody down with us. Matthew Rosenberg, Stefano Landini, and this book is absolutely dope. What else can I say about it? We're delving into the world of spy-fi.
Hey.
Pad.
All right.
This is going to be something I think is up your alley, a little espionage, a little sci-fi, all rolled into one. This is something that you're going to be absolutely blown away by. And if you want even more reviews, Nerd Initiative did over 50 between YouTube and the website this week. Nobody, and I mean nobody, does New Comic Book Day quite like Nerd Initiative. So make sure head over to the website, hit us up, let us know what you think of the reviews, let us know what you're picking up, and let's have those conversations, shall we? Because that's all we got for this week in entertainment. So for the one and only Padawan J.
Thank you.
I'm your host, Ken. Thank you as always. Listen to the ODPH podcast. See you next time.